welcome back to GayFatFriend and Friends, the podcast for explorers. How's your week going? Are you guys doing okay out there? I hope everybody's having a great time. I know I am. Like you probably know, I've said it before, but I do record this on Sundays, and I just watched a great, fresh episode of CBS Sunday Morning, and I'm telling you, nothing recharges me and hypes up my Sunday more than a fresh episode of CBS Sunday Morning. When I hear those trumpets, oh, that's like audible Red Bull. I just get very excited. Today was about, Steve Martin, the conflict in the Middle East, some authors, everything you want. That bird guy from Central Park that racist lady tried to call the cops on. I don't know if you are familiar with that story, but I think it was 2 years ago. This white lady was walking her dog off leash in Central Park, and this black guy was, telling her to stop. But luckily he recorded himself doing it. And she tried to call the cops on him, and she was just completely racist and poor white woman tears. Anyway, he got his own TV show now. He's got a bird watching TV show because he was in the park bird watching that day. And he's just a hot gay nerd. Seriously, he's one of the best archetypes of gay men. Hot, gay, and nerd, because he is very smart and very obsessed with birds. And I think that's the best outcome of that story. I love that he got a TV show about bird watching out of it. Good for him. But yeah, I love a good episode of CBS Sunday Morning, seriously. And you got to watch it all the way through because you need that moment of nature at the end, that moment of nature to just kind of ease you out of the show and into the day. And then those final closing trumpets. A couple times I've accidentally ended the show without listening to the final trumpets. I'll be like, oh, moment of nature's over, done. And it's so hard. I watch it on the Paramount Plus app. You can't fast forward to the end. And so when you X out of it, if you don't listen to those final trumpets, you're just screwed because otherwise you'd have to watch the entire episode again. I've considered it. That's how much I love that show. But yeah, you got to watch the whole episode, including the moment of nature and then those final trumpets. And I feel so alive. Happy Sunday. I think we have some housekeeping to take care of. Housekeeping is pretty serious housekeeping. If you listened to last week's episode, you might have noticed the audio was a little fish, was a little strange, was a little out of the ordinary. And that is because, every day's an experiment. And Rob and I tried, the first time we recorded the episode together, I recorded his audio on my Tascam HD audio recorder. And the XLR cord, it adds this buzz background noise. Also, it was a lot to get his audio off the Tascam, combine it with my audio on my computer, and then edit it all together. So last week we were like, you know what? Why don't we record your audio on your laptop? I'll record mine on my laptop, and then we can just combine them and edit away. I thought it would be so easy. We forgot one little thing, one special little step. We did not select these microphones in Audacity, which is the program we use to record the podcast. We plugged our microphones in, but it defaults to using the MacBook microphone. So we both recorded the whole podcast on just our MacBook microphones. The microphones in front of us were merely a prop. They did absolutely nothing. And the whole time, I'm kind of watching his recorder progress and seeing the sound waves, and I'm watching mine and I was like, these look weird. And then the podcast is over and I downloaded all the audio and I'm trying to put it together. And for some reason on Rob's audio, my voice is louder. And I'm like, what the hell? These are not multi-direction mics. Why is this happening? And why is your audio blown out? And then we were like, oh, maybe we should have, messed with the settings in Audacity. And that's why it was so blown out and weird. And then the volume was different. Usually I have to raise the volume to make the podcast levels equal. And the volume on mine was really blown out. And I was like, what is going on? And then I had just a full on sit straight up in bed kind of epiphany moment. I was like, the microphones! Because when I first started doing this, I remember you have to select the microphone in input. Otherwise, it just defaults to the laptop. So I solved the mystery of the terrible audio. But unfortunately, I don't want to say we lost an episode to that. But, like I said, every day is a learning experience. So now we know. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't want to jinx us, but fingers crossed, the audio in today's episode will be beautiful, clear, high def, equal level audio. And Rob won't be so distant because I couldn't use his audio at all. I tried to layer our audios. His audio was so blown out and loud. I don't know. It was like, it just sounded like noise. And so we couldn't use it. But hopefully this week it's better. Again, who knows? We're not podcasting professionals. We just play one on TV. All right. That's all housekeeping that I needed to take care of for today. The main thing I wanted to talk about before we get Rob out here is the continuing TikTok drama. I don't know if you've been paying attention to all the stuff. They're trying to get TikTok banned. Honestly, every excuse they give for banning TikTok, I don't care about. Maybe that makes me a bad American, but they're like, China can track your every move. China can turn on your microphone, even though they have said repeatedly they will not do that and they cannot do that. American lawmakers are like, nope, they're going to turn on your microphone and your camera when you're sleeping and they're going to steal your secrets. But on top of the TikTok drama, I am going through my own personal TikTok drama because it's kind of a terrible app for its creators. I've said before, it is my biggest following of any apps, but TikTok right now is suppressing me. I hate to use that word because it sounds conspiracy theory, but I have 250,000 followers, close to it, and I'm getting like 1,000 and 2,000 views per video every day. I'm doing this series called Get to Know Me, where I'm opening this gnome advent calendar that I got. It was gifted. It was very sweet. I realize in hindsight now, 31 days of doing a series of anything, even if it was popular, I should not have agreed to do 31 days. And by agreed, I mean myself. Like, she just sent me this advent calendar. I did not need to do a series. I do not need to finish this series. We have no agreement. There's no contract. I am simply just opening this calendar every day because I started it and we're 24 days in at this point. By the time you hear this, we'll be 27 days in. I'm so close to the end. I have to finish it. And I don't want to just like finish it all in one day. I want to complete what I set out to do from the beginning because that's my OCD. All right. I'm a completionist, but on top of like not wanting, I should say on top of regretting doing this series, TikTok does not want you to do a series unless you use their series feature. It's almost like Masterclass. They want you to do things in a series and then sell it to people for a subscription. I'm never going to do that. Like, I have been asked and offered many times to do Patreon. I don't want to do it. Once people start paying you for things, it changes your entire relationship. I want TikTok to pay me and I want brands to pay me. That's it. I don't want my followers, my listeners, my viewers to pay me. I can't do that. That's not in my wheelhouse. I can't do it. But doing this series, if you don't use TikTok features, if you don't do things TikTok wants you to do, then they're just like, bye, see ya. We're not going to show you to people. And it makes me feel, it's getting to the point that it makes me feel like a crazy, like, what's it called? Detective conspiracy theorist, where I have like pictures and maps all over the wall with red strings going in every direction, connecting things, because you start to figure things out and you start to realize things, but you have zero proof and there's no way to prove it. And so ultimately what I'm saying is TikTok makes you go crazy. But like I said, I have a bunch of followers and I'm getting a very low percentage of views. Well, then I went to other people's pages, friends of mine that have like millions of followers, and they are getting the same low percentage of views. Like, I have 250,000 followers. My friend that has 2 million followers, if you go and look at their views, you're like, ooh, 50, 60,000 views per video. But if you divide those views by like how many more followers they have than me, it comes out to the same percentage. And so TikTok is just suppressing people all around for who knows why. And like I said before, they want us to stand up for them. They want us to call our lawmakers and tell them not to ban them. And it's like, girl, I'm not going to help you do any work when you stopped doing work for me. They also changed their payment system. They had this thing called the creativity beta, I think. And I did make a lot of money from it last year. But they just recently, like last week, 2 weeks ago, they changed it and made it a more permanent feature. But by doing that, they changed the criteria of how you get paid. So it used to be $1,000 for every million views. Like, if you got a video, it had to be over a minute. The only criteria that it was over a minute, And it couldn't be like someone else's video. Like if it had any kind of watermark on it, or if it was like just the news, you know, like you couldn't post other people's clips. You had to make something yourself, and it had to be over a minute. And for every million views, you got $1,000. Well, they changed that now, and no one really knows what the new formula is, because people are getting 3, 4, 5 million viewed videos that fit all the criteria, and they're making $100. Like TikTok is really screwing over some of their biggest creators. So people are leaving, and it's like, girl, you are going through it right now in the United States. Now is not the time to screw over your big creators that were making this a job, because I've been screwed over by a job. I mean, I call TikTok my job because I don't do anything else right now. But like I said, if you own a bakery, call me, girl. I would love to work at your bakery in Seattle. Anyway, I consider TikTok and Instagram my job because I'm hoping to get brand deals and stuff. But one time I was a private tour guide at Disneyland, which I'll tell the story at another time. But I worked for this company, and I got the job in August. And if you know anything about Disneyland, August is like the busiest. I think it's the busiest month. Christmas is like the busiest season, but that's usually like the week of Christmas and New Year's. August as a whole is the busiest month at Disneyland because everybody's trying to squeeze in their passes or their family vacation before school starts. And like anything in the family-oriented industry, it's very much seasonal and based on like when the kids go back to school. Well, I didn't know that. So I'm booking these tours. I'm being this like private tour guide through Disneyland, making shit tons of money, making more money, especially per day, than I've ever made in my life, right? I'm making literally thousands of dollars. And so I start investing in my job at Disneyland. I bought fancy shoes for walking all day. I bought, a nice backpack, hat, clothes. I invested in food. I spent some stuff on myself. I bought toys because I was like, wow, I'm in a new tax bracket. I love this. And then literally Labor Day, the tours stop until Christmas. No one told me that. And so I invested all this money myself. I'm also spending money. I was saving it too, but I did not realize it was that seasonal. I didn't know these tours were going to stop, and no one told me. I mean, to tell you the truth, again, I will tell this story at another time, but to tell you the truth, the whole operation was shady, and I didn't realize it until I left. But I wasted all this money building up this possible career that I was going to have touring Disneyland. The same thing is happening with TikTok, and I'm seeing it in other creators. Luckily for me, I don't spend a lot of money. I mean, I do a lot of grocery hauls and stuff like that, but that's stuff I was going to buy anyway. I'm not going out of my way to buy things to then do a video for them on TikTok. But I know a lot of my friends that have like cooking channels and they do cooking videos every day. They went out and bought, I know people that bought new stoves. They bought new pots and pans. They bought new dishes. They bought special lights, all this stuff. They were building their own home studio to make cooking videos, spending a lot of money on food, making these recipes. And TikTok just snatched that out from underneath people. So everyone lost and is losing currently. This is actively happening. Everyone lost a lot of money because TikTok exceeded their expectations and made them feel comfortable and safe. And now they ripped that out from underneath all of us. So I have a very abusive relationship with TikTok at the moment. And once I finished this Gnome series, it really did fuck up my channel. Like I've lost a ton of followers. I have no views. TikTok has stopped putting me in strangers' FYPs. So it's only showing my videos to people that already follow me, which is great. And I love that. And, I love my followers and I love talking to them and stuff. But the only opportunity to make it a career is with growth. And TikTok has literally just stopped and stunted my growth. I'm not getting any new followers at all. And I was getting like 1,000 followers a week in December. And in mid-January, it just stopped. I have not gotten a new follower in over 90 days. It's a little crazy. So that's my TikTok rant. And that's how I feel, like a crazy person trying to connect all these conspiracies. Because like I said, we can't prove it, but we know something's happening. I mean, a lot of us, especially giant creators, we're all talking about this. We're all feeling it, and we're all talking to each other about it. So hopefully TikTok will get their shit together soon, because I work really hard, and I know a lot of other people work really hard, and we want to make this our life. We want to make a living doing this, and we make good content. That's the thing too. We put together a lot of really great stuff, and when people see it, they love it. So all we need is TikTok to show it to people. That's not that hard. You have like one job, TikTok. Let people upload to your site and then show people that stuff they upload. Done. Hopefully they'll fix it soon. Having said that, I think it's high time that we bring out little Robbie Man. So without further ado, here he is. It's Rob. Yay. Here he is. It's Rob.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You having a good morning?
So far, so good.
I'm having a bit of a sushi hangover. We ate sushi for dinner last night, which I love. I absolutely love sushi. I could eat it. I think I could eat it every day, as could you.
You say that, but then, like, whenever I'm in the mood for sushi, you're always like, no.
Well, it's because that one, like, I am very anti-fishy smell and fishy taste, especially like that, like, hardcore kind of day-old salmon smell in a kitchen. And that one time we had poke, it was just like a little bit off. I don't think I got sick at all, but it just did that thing where it burned into my nose, and I was like, oh, just the thought of fish really got to me. And I think more than sushi, it's always poke. It's like poke kind of ruins raw fish for me. But I love sushi, especially, like I've said before, I love the ceremony of different foods. Like I love to go to Melting Pot, and I love to do a fondue. But sushi, that's one of the best ceremonial eating experiences ever, because you get your little soy sauce and your chopsticks, and the food comes out so beautifully. But yeah, we had sushi for dinner last night, and being full of sushi is kind of gross.
Well, it's weird because I don't know. It takes a lot for me to be full of sushi. Like I can literally just pack it away.
As your niece and nephew say, Uncle Rob loves sushi.
Yeah, like they've seen me eat a weird an amount to where they couldn't stop commenting on it.
Yeah, when was that? Was that like October?
Like a year ago, probably.
Yeah. Rob went to dinner with his niece and nephew in LA, and they went out to sushi.
My mom was buying, so
yeah.
Like I'm gonna eat all the sushi I can.
Right. Always order extra when somebody else is buying.
Well, and but it's funny, I have those kind of policies of like I don't know if I would eat sushi in a landlocked state, and in general though I feel like you often crave sushi on a weekend, and I'm like, well, I'm that guy that like I guess I was told this once. I don't know if this is still valid or not.
I was gonna say I think you saw like an episode of Oprah or something. Like
no,
one
I
person
was,
said it
was
one
talking
time
to people, and it just made sense. You don't eat sushi when there's not a fish shipment that day. So like typically you shouldn't be eating sushi on a Sunday because there's a guarantee that the fish they have is at least a day old. And so it's one of those where like I tend to eat sushi mostly on weekdays. I say Tuesday through Friday is like usually when I'm like that's the sushi time. But that could be super old information. We live in a world of next day delivery.
Yeah, we live in a global society now.
Yeah, so who knows if that's still valid, but yeah, I could eat poke and or sushi nearly every day, but also like I'm a customizer. Like I have a ceremony for even poke because like I add a crap ton of cilantro to it. And then I mix it all up and I put it into a giant tortilla to make a sort of poke burrito of sorts. It's channeling back to these sushi burritos I used to get out of a food truck in LA 1,000 years ago. And of course now sushi burrito I think is a more common idea. Although most people call it a sushi burrito, and all it is just a giant hand roll.
With seaweed paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, soy paper makes it better, but I'm talking like this food truck I went to did like flour tortillas.
Which I tried. I can't handle like a chewy flour tortilla with sushi. It just feels wrong. I just don't like the flavors together.
It just gives
the textures.
It gives so much extra like little bit of fat to it. It's so good. And yeah, I mean, also I could eat anything in a tortilla, but like honestly, it sounds strange until you try it and you're like, oh yeah, it's basically just a vessel for additional fat content. It's amazing.
Well, and also we love poke, and it really got us through the pandemic too. Like we ate a ton of Chipotle, Jack in the Box, and poke. Those were our three main food groups of the pandemic. Yeah. But poke is different in LA. Like they have different toppings, different additions, different ways to build your bowl. It's kind of all the same Chipotle, build a bowl concept. But in LA, almost everyone has fresh avocado and cilantro and jalapenos or chilies.
Habaneros.
Yeah. And the poke places up here, at least the ones we've been to by our house, they have guacamole, but they don't have like just fresh sliced avocado. They've never had cilantro, and they never have jalapenos either.
Yeah.
And that's some of my favorite flavors in a poke bowl. is jalapenos and cilantro.
Yeah, we always have to dress up our stuff. So it's like if we go get poke, it is a 2-stop kind of place. And if we don't have tortillas, then it's 3.
Yeah, we always have to go to multiple stores and locations and restaurants just to get our full poke experience.
Well, if normal grocery stores carried the extra large tortillas, I wouldn't be in this mess.
Yeah, we have to go to the restaurant supply store to get the, what are they, 15-inch tortillas?
I think they're 13
13-inch?
because they're bigger than the Chipotle tortillas, it turns out.
And like way bigger than Mission. Like you can't get them in a regular grocery store.
But it's funny, they are not the largest size that they have. There is a larger size, and
they're huge.
I keep dabbling with like the parachute tortilla, but like we haven't bitten the bullet yet.
I don't even know what restaurant is buying those. Like I can't imagine a burrito or a quesadilla that big, and I've never seen one that big.
It feels
in
like
a restaurant.
must be one of those like man versus food kind of locations. I
Maybe.
don't know,
like a fair food kind of circus truck.
Finish this burrito in 20 minutes, and it's free, and you get your picture on the wall. Otherwise, it costs $50. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess maybe if you're one of those restaurants that like cuts them into strips and fries them.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they make chips out of them or something.
Honestly, I mean, although I feel like if you're gonna make chips, you don't need giant flour tortillas, or you don't need giant tortillas. You want the misshapen ones. I would think like you want all the
the craggly edges,
the rejects off the line because they got to be cheaper. You're gonna cut them into squares and fry them. Like, why would you want a beautiful tortilla for that?
Yeah.
But
But so talking about sushi, first of all, like, what's your favorite order? Because when I did sushi before I met Rob, I always got like a California roll and a spicy tuna roll, and like I was good to go. Rob gets the fancy rolls, right? Rob likes a lot of different stuff.
Well, I don't go nuts. Like it's weird because I'm still not super adventurous, but I often feel like sushi's kind of like Taco Bell. It's if you have a handful of ingredients that you like, you can kind of shake it up in any sort of format. So I love any sort of like a crunchy rice type element. I love a tempura, anything with like shrimp, crab, tuna, avocado, spicy tuna. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like an egg, like a fish egg type situation. Or
I go back and forth on a cream cheese, like the Philadelphia rolls and stuff. We had an amazing roll last night that had cream cheese. Didn't it? That Boss roll?
No,
it didn't.
No, that was actually I think it was spicy crab inside, or just crab. The crab mix,
like
kind
salad
of thing.
or whatever.
Yeah. But like what got me started in sushi actually was yellowtail. And that was like because I was super terrified of sushi until I was like, I don't know, 22.
Well, it wasn't really a national thing in the States until like the year 2000.
But like I went to a college that had a sushi chef. Yeah. Like literally, like, I went to USC and like,
That's like when sushi started to blow up as like a fast food option in the States.
And so I saw a lot of students when I was in college, with like a little tray of to-go sushi like in class eating it. And I was always like, what? It seems so foreign to me. And then But yeah, and then later I was in a situation where somebody was like, try yellowtail. It's not very fishy. It's got kind of like a good entry point. And oh man. So like my new tradition actually is I always usually get 2 pieces of yellowtail, and it's the first thing I eat and the last thing I eat. It's my bookending fish. And then but I love regular tuna sushi.
Tuna's my favorite, and in every form. Like I love the spicy tuna when they like chop it up and it's kind of a paste. I also love it's like the one I like to eat. It just does a chunk of like ruby red flesh.
You could give me like a sushi grade tuna steak and I'd just be like, it's just like
and like back to what we were talking about earlier about safety and delivery and stuff. I've seen a lot of videos and even cooking shows say that like the safest raw stuff is stuff that's been frozen. I know frozen, it's almost like microwaves and freezers get such bad raps in the food community, but really they do a lot of good and convenience. But when it comes to like eating raw fish, having it frozen first kills off a lot of bacteria that could hurt you. So whenever they're like, oh, was this tuna frozen? You don't actually want like fresh out of the ocean, super fresh fish, because that's when it can have harmful stuff in it. It's kind of like oysters.
And this is all like, I trust this guy when it comes to food safety stuff because I'm a big dummy when it comes to this. I just haven't had the training or,
Well, working, I feel like LA was one of the biggest cities of food safety. We had to get certification like every 2 years, and we had to literally carry a card. I'm assuming you still have to do it, but when you got your food safety certification in LA to be a server or bartender, you literally had to print out the card and keep it in your wallet, because if the health department walked in and you didn't have it, you could get a fine.
That's neat.
So, and did we talk about oysters on the pod, or was that something somewhere else?
I think we may have addressed the oyster situation before, maybe.
Because
because I think I think you did.
Did I talk about it on TikTok?
I don't know. I recall you talking in some sort of content.
Too many platforms, too much content. But yeah, I won't actually eat raw oysters anymore, because the last time we had it, which was what, last New Year's, so like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Or not half, but like last New Year's. I had raw oysters and I got super sick, and I don't know if it was the oysters, but at the same time, there's a story going around that there's like new bacteria appearing in oysters that have never appeared before, and lots of people are getting sick. Like 2 people died last year from oysters.
Well, and I think we're in the right region of the ocean for that oyster problem or something. Aren't we like in the right place? I don't know.
Like a lot of shellfish and stuff comes out of the Pacific Northwest water, but also, I mean, we live next to one of the biggest sewage treatment plants in Seattle, and it literally just empties into the Sound sometimes. So I don't know if I trust raw shellfish out of this ocean.
It's like fishing at Manhattan
Sound.
Beach.
Yeah.
You know?
It is so funny when people are like fishing off the Venice Pier or like the Santa Monica Pier. I'm like,
It's like,
honey.
You can see the Manhattan Beach treatment plant on the water, like from here.
And the nuclear plant and all the oil rigs literally right in front of you. Like, honey, that's going to have 5 eyeballs, and you're going to start glowing green if you eat that fish.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you is, you have had the wonderful opportunity via your mother to go to Japan. Did you have actual Japanese sushi in Japan?
No.
What?
No, I honestly, okay, so when I went to Japan, I was 19. And so at that point, I wasn't really super into sushi. Like, I wasn't really comfortable with it.
Well, yeah, it wasn't really big over here yet.
And yeah, so and it's
So that was what, 2001?
2002.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I just finished my first year of college, and my mom traveled for a living, training doctors on cochlear implantation techniques to like not destroy this, $12,000 implant. And it was usually cheaper to send a tech with the actual stuff.
Yeah, I didn't learn that until I met Rob and his mom. Cochlear implants for people, dealing with deafness.
Profoundly deaf.
Profoundly deaf have to be hand delivered around the world.
At least, and it used to be the case. I don't know if that's the situation now. This is obviously, 20 years ago. But yeah, I got a call from her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to Japan for 9 days for work. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "What?" And so, yeah, her and her coworker actually used their miles to fly me out to Japan with them. And so my mom was in like conventions and meetings for a lot of it. And so I just got to crash in her hotel room. And while she was at work, I would go and get to sort of see a little bit of Japan. We spent
my dream.
It was really cool. It was before Lost in Translation happened, so it was kind of one of those, like when that movie came out, it was like it was semi relatable to a degree. The first 6 days we were in Nagoya. We stayed in the JR Central Towers, I believe it's called. It's like just this giant series of towers in like the middle of the city, kind of. There's the train station goes through it, and like one of the towers is a hotel, one of them is a department store. There's literally like a record store. There's a Tokyo Hands convenience store. There's all sorts of stuff, and like the great thing was, Japan was so safe. I could just walk. I basically walked out of an exit of that building in a different direction every day I was there, and I would walk and like look at cool vending machines. Never saw any of the crazy wild rumored vending machines you hear about, but I did buy like, I don't know, 14 different style of bottles of oolong tea because I loved oolong tea. My backpack was always full of like various bottles and cans of like just crazy stuff because like the aluminum resealable bottles were happening for soda there, which was crazy. And I would go in a different direction until I was like, okay, I'm done, and I'd turn around and I could see the tower from wherever I was because it was so tall, and so I felt really safe. I also had a little card that was written in kanji that I could just show to a cab driver, and that basically said, like, "Help me, I'm lost. Please take me to this place."
Oh, nice.
And so, because I didn't speak a lick of Japanese when I arrived.
Obviously, I can't even read it. Like, if I saw Japanese on a sign, unless it was like a McDonald's or a KFC, I wouldn't know what those symbols mean.
It was crazy. And in Nagoya, our first 6 days, like, I don't want to, it's funny. I was a bit of a novelty. I on escalators, I would get second glances from people as they went the other direction. They would look back at me. I was kind of a novelty in Nagoya, and no one spoke English. I did not expect anybody to. And so I had to learn to kind of communicate and pull back on a lot of my American mannerisms to function there. And but for me, it was kind of fun. I wanted to do a lot of shopping and stuff because like this was I literally have some notes here because there was a lot in that trip that was really neat. So for the first like 6 days, obviously, I don't speak any Japanese, and I learned really quickly how to get by. Like in restaurants, my mom told me, she was like, "Hey, while you're here, either eat Japanese food or various international cuisine. Do not eat American food. It is not good." She's like, "But you'll eat some of the best Italian food of your life."
It's not
here.
good, like aesthetically, not good. Like,
No,
it's dirty.
Even sorry, flavor wise, it's not. Yeah, flavor wise, it's not really gonna hit. Like you can get that back home. But like international cuisine, like Italian, Indian, she was like, get any sort of international cuisine. If it is in Japan, it's going to be incredible.
Oh, okay.
And she was not wrong. And so I learned in restaurants to sort of look for other Westerners who typically could ask for my check for me, and like just people who could better communicate.
Yeah, the thing you have to remember, guys, is this was very before smartphones, but this was like before laptops. Like you didn't even have a laptop that you could print out MapQuest directions.
Yeah.
I mean, they existed, but probably
I didn't have a laptop at the time.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
probably
have any
didn't
money.
bring one to Japan with you.
Yeah, no
So,
tablet,
like,
PC.
Couldn't even do MapQuest. Like we used to explore cities with our bodies.
Yeah, I had a candy bar phone at the time.
Yeah.
Like, and so
Which
yeah.
probably didn't work in Japan.
Oh
Or
no,
you
I didn't do an international SIM card. I wasn't paying for roaming.
If that even existed then.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing I was gonna do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like the one thing I learned really quickly is I was never going to learn kanji. Kanji is, I believe it's multiple thousands of characters. It's just I was never going to learn kanji. However, katakana and hiragana are the two phonetic alphabets, which are often used for phonetical spellings, international names, that kind of stuff. So I immediately learned how to write my own name just as practice. Basically my name is almost the same. It's just there's a bunch of extra A's in there to create this sort of like rolling kind of cadence based on syllables that they have. But I had to learn, because like this is the craziest thing. While I was in Japan, it was during like a 2-week period where there were 3 bands that I absolutely loved that all had records coming out internationally, and they weren't out in America yet for some reason. And these were not small bands. And they were all on EMI/Capitol, and I guess that was the thing where they released in like Europe and Japan, and then 2 weeks later in America. So while I was in Japan was during that weird window where Radiohead, Hail to the Thief, was not available in America yet, but it was available internationally. Granddaddy's new album, Someday, was in the same case, as well as the Dandy Warhol's Welcome to the Monkey House. And so I learned how to write all of those band names in katakana, which I learned.
So you could find the record.
So I could basically present these slips of paper to people at record stores, and they could show me, because all of the CDs, there were CDs I was buying at the time, in Japan were displayed spine side out, and they all have obi strips covering the English writing, having them all written in katakana. So it's just a
I hope you're saying that word right, because you've said it like 10 times.
It is a wall of just foreign symbols. You can't read a word.
Yeah.
And so I would literally just be blindly looking. And so I learned how to like write out my band names to present to people, and I ended up walking out of Japan, leaving Japan with all 3 of those records, or those CDs, which I got to listen to weeks in advance, which is super fun. Like, Granddaddy got rewritten as like Garandadai. It's you basically just, it's kind of like you have to kind of sound it out using these individual syllables.
It's
it was fascinating.
in Spain when they talk about like, when they insert like an American word, football and stuff like that.
But yeah, no, it was
American football.
Because like even like the Dandy Warhols became like Daina Dae Waharo is. It was like very. I mean, and this is obviously years of my mind eroding that. I have no idea if I'm saying it right now, but it was fascinating, and you just had to kind of work with it. But I got it done.
Well, shopping aside, I love that exciting whimsy of going to a foreign language country for the first time, because I did it too in high school with when we went to France. We took a school trip to Paris, and I was actually taking French in high school, but it's just that thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to learn how to say this word, and I'm going to learn and then you get there and you do none of it. You don't say any of it, and all of your confidence goes out the window, and you're like, oh, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to act lost.
I think I was like 3 or 4 years into Spanish when I went to Costa Rica, and I was like, oh, I'm going to kill it. It'll be amazing. And first off, we had a tour guide. We did not have to speak to anybody.
Yeah, that's how France was too. It's like, wait, I didn't need to do this anyway.
Yeah, and then like the last night we were in San Jose, and I was like, I'm going to, like, I needed something. Like we used all of our towels to sop up a beer that had exploded. Teenagers, woo! We were, dumb. And so... Heyo. And so I went down to the lobby, and I said, necesito una toalla, which is how I understood to say I need a towel. And they looked at me like I just grew a second head. And I was like, una toalla, and they're like, ¿cómo? And
You're like, this is all wrong.
I literally said una toalla, and I did like the gesture like you're drying your butt. And they were like, oh, a towel. And I was like, yes, thank you. And then later I talked to my Spanish teacher back when the new semester started, and I was like, why did they look at me like I was crazy? And she goes, that might be like an idiomatic kind of thing where toalla might mean feminine napkin, so you might have just really confused them. And I was like, oh, great, cool. And
it's funny, I'm firmly in the camp, speaking of like that experiment, I'm firmly in the camp, and I know other countries have changed this and say differently, but I'm always going to say, do you speak English? You know, what English do you know? I'm going to start being very apologetic that I am American and speak English, but I'm going to start by finding out what English they speak instead of just diving into using their language.
Well, and okay, so the Japan thing was funny. So we spent 6 days in Nagoya where I had to kind of learn a bit. Then we went to Tokyo. And on the way to Tokyo, I was like feeling super confident. I was like, all right, I'm going to practice my Japanese. I'll be great. We end up, so we get off the train in Tokyo, and first off, the most lovely old man who did not speak a word of English was able to communicate with my mother, who was just awkward as hell, but it was very cute. And basically he found out which train we needed to be on, and we were going in the wrong direction. And he literally came back from the turnstile and grabbed my mom by the hand and escorted her and me to the train that we needed to be on. And then literally just turned around and went back to where he needed to go. Like the people in Japan are just so lovely. And then
I want to go so bad.
And so we finally exit the train station, and my mom is confident. She's like, oh, we need to go this way and that way, and then we'll get to the hotel. She exits. She's like, I don't know where we are. Because my mom is super confident until she's immediately realizes that, there's more than one exit to this giant train station in Tokyo. So I'm like, all right, great. I'm feeling confident. I know how to ask where I need to go. Here we go. A man in a suit is walking towards us, and I'm literally just like, I'm about to be like, konnichiwa, like barely like any syllables come out of my mouth. And he cuts me off and just goes, do you need help? And I was like, yes. And so we explain. He goes, follow me. And he literally goes a block out of his way, shows us where we need to go, and then turns around and walks away. It's like he's just this super helpful dude. But it was funny because everyone always, whenever I talked about how much I love Japan, everyone's always like, oh, it's because you were taller than everybody. False. I am 5'4". I am as tall as most super old men and some women. Most people in Japan are actually much taller than you would think. I mean, they're not like these, they're not tall as Todd, for example, but as from what I've heard, I guess there's been a dietary shift, I think, in Japan, in that there's been more dairy in the last 40 years.
Same with South Korea too. They're just incorporating more cheese and everything.
Yeah, and so in general, people in Japan they're just a larger people now. Most men that I met who were in their 20s when I was there were all 5'10". They were all just big, big guys. I mean,
it makes sense. I blame the hormones in the beef and dairy growing up is why I'm 6'7". So that tracks.
But it's funny because everyone's like, oh yeah, you were as tall as everybody. No, I was as tall as the old, super old people.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kindness will get you everywhere, gang. Lead with kindness and kindness will be returned.
Well, it was funny because what was it? The first night we were there, we actually stayed at in Narita, near the airport, to get on the smaller plane to go to Nagoya. And I went nuts on the vending machines and just basically bought one of everything. And the following morning, we're going to the airport to hop on a plane. It's 7 a.m, and I'm drinking this really tall can that's super gold and shiny, and it looked really neat, and it tasted like a Sprite. And I'm drinking it in the elevator, and this woman just looks at me and she goes, there's alcohol in that, right? And I was like, what? I had no idea. Of course, I couldn't read any of these things. So, I ended up actually doing a lot of inadvertent drinking while I was in Japan.
My friend Melissa accidentally drank dish soap because it was in a beautiful bottle and it looked like soda. And she drank it and it was like palm olive or whatever it's called.
I did not do that. But I was actually 19, so I was the legal drinking age in Japan. And as an American who's used to colossal sodas at dirt cheap prices, going to a restaurant and getting a 500 yen for $5, teeny tiny little soda, it was like, okay, well, I could spend $5 for that, or I could spend $5 for a pint of Kirin, fresh draft.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a lot of day drinking because it was cheaper.
And you were 19.
Yeah, and it was cheaper than getting a soda. And so it was one of those like, I don't have anywhere to be.
Well, it's like when I lived in London, the first time I ever saw beer come in a 2-liter soda bottle. Like Strongbow hard cider just came in a soda bottle.
I had no idea. I'd never heard
and that was before that was before cider kind of made it over here. So like, I'm 20 years old living in London, and I was like, I'll just drink cider all the time. It's delicious and sweet and alcoholic.
Going back to the initial question though, in Japan though, I ate a lot of international food, no sushi, but of the Japanese food I ate so much cold soba noodles.
I was literally about to say, to circle back, why didn't you eat sushi?
Well, yeah, because I was literally going nuts on soba noodles because they were cheap, but like they were delicious. I could order them from the automated machines cold from like little noodle stands underneath train stops and stuff. So yeah, it was so good. I ate so much soba.
I can't do a cold noodle unless it's literally covered in mayonnaise, aka macaroni salad.
Ugh.
Like I can't. Something about cold pasta and cold noodles just like creeps me out a little bit. And so yeah, I've never been able to do those cold like Asian salads and stuff.
That ceremony though was so good of like the cold noodles. You dunk them in the sauce, which is also cold. You eat it, but then when you're done, you take a little bit of hot water, add it to the sauce, and you drink it. It's delicious.
I'd say everybody always says it's so refreshing. It's like a delicious summer heat wave food like that. I literally cannot think of what it's called right now, but that Korean, I believe it's Korean, like ice soup, where it's like literally noodle soup served with ice in it, and you like eat it icy cold.
I've never heard of that.
I see it all over TikTok, but
the Korean vichyssoise.
I can't do cold soups unless it's like a Bloody Mary. All right, well. Hopefully one day we get to Japan because I want to go so bad. I mean, I'm 6'7", so I feel like they'll treat me like a king. Like everyone will just assume I'm famous, and I love that feeling.
No, you will definitely you will still be a novelty there. But yeah, it's a treat. It's fun.
All right. Well, that was great. I hope we get to go to Japan one day. And having said all of that, let's move on to our final segment, which is What's Your Order? What's your order? I have our trusty blue Rip and Dip shoebox here. There's only like 2 or 3 restaurants left in here. In case you're not familiar with this segment, What's Your Order? I pick one of America's favorite fast food restaurants out of a shoebox, and then I tell you what my order is. And now that Rob is a permanent guest host, I will also tell his order. So, slippery suckers. In case you're only listening, Rob just Julia Robert me with the shoebox. Okay, so today's restaurant is McDonald's.
Hey!
See, the heavy hitters, the big guys are still in the box. I think like the ones that are left are like Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. So McDonald's. Wow, this is easy. I think I've had 2, hardcore orders my whole life. In high school, growing up, when I first had access to McDonald's, it was the 2 cheeseburger meal, supersized, back when you could still supersize things, with a High C orange. Like that was my all-time meal. I mean, I guess we probably did a lot of Happy Meals as a child, but when I started having my own ability to order McDonald's and go on my own, always the 2 cheeseburger meal. Like that was my gig. But now as an adult, it is a 10-piece nugget meal, large, with a High C orange, sweet and sour sauce, and then I either add a McChicken or I add a McDouble, and that's almost always. Occasionally, it's very rare now because the last time I did it kind of made me sick, I will get a Big Mac or a quarter pounder meal occasionally because, like, let's be honest, McDonald's isn't known for its burgers. I'd be like, I'm kind of craving a Big Mac, and then I did that like, I don't know, a year ago, and it kind of made me sick, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to eat a Big Mac ever again. So yeah, large chicken nugget meal. I believe it's a number 10 at our McDonald's. I could be mistaken.
I think it's a 6.
Is it 6?
I think.
And High C orange, which I'm so glad they brought that back. That was like life-changing when they brought that back.
Well, and this is a fun fact. He has the same McDonald's order combo-wise as Randy Marsh from South Park.
And we were watching South Park together at the time, and it was the episode where he buys a Blockbuster.
And it becomes like The Shining.
And so he ends up in the snow, frozen outside, and his wife, oh God, what's her name?
Mrs. Marsh.
Yeah, she's like, all right, well, once you're done with this, I'm going to go to McDonald's. Are you going to calm down? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, what do you want? He's like, McNugget meal, sweet and sour, High C orange. I was like, that's my order. That like we both like looked at each other and screamed. I was like, that's my order. So yeah, Randy is a big part of our lives in general because we quote him constantly.
Well,
but
for Halloween one year, I was Randy Marsh as Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you watch the show.
Yeah.
So Rob was Randy as Lord, and he said, yeah, all night long. And it was such a treat. But so that's my order. Rob, what's your order?
Well, I mean, yeah, kid order we're not going to go into, obviously Happy Meals. But like my high school order was always a 20-piece nugget, supersized fry.
Luxury.
And then I would give one nugget away because me being like a skinny bitch in high school who's super annoying about it, I'd always give one nugget away so I could be like, do you want one? If I eat all 20, I feel like a pig. It was just me being shitty.
I used to make that joke about M&Ms.
Yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, well, I want to eat them all.
I didn't eat the whole bag.
Oh God, no. And so now though, I am also a 10-piece nugget combo man, super size or large size with a Diet Coke because their Diet Coke hits.
Crispy.
If McDonald's ever gets Coke Zero though, it is over for all of us hoes. It is going
we'll
to be
just literally
incredible.
go every day.
But yeah, so that with a Diet Coke, I usually add a hot and spicy McChicken to it because
Or
those are
two.
delicious. I usually get like buy one get one for $1, so
Tell
I usually
them
buy
what you
two.
do.
Well,
Tell them what you do.
I buy a second one and I toss it in the fridge. And by the way, those are delicious cold. I
He
don't know.
eats them cold like the next day.
While I'm like making other food, I usually just kind of grab
A
that. I'm
cold,
like, nom, nom, nom.
day-old refrigerated McChicken.
They're delicious.
Blows my mind.
Tell
Tell them your ultra fun fact about McDonald's, which I love you to death more than any person on the planet. I believe you 100%. But this weird fun fact about you, sometimes I cannot believe it's possibly true.
Well,
but tell them.
And this is a case, rather, as long as I have been capable of ordering for myself. So I do not know if, like, as a younger person,
Suppressed
if this happened to
childhood
me
memories.
or whatever. But as far as I can remember, I have never had the beef at McDonald's.
He's never had a McDonald's burger, not even a bite.
Never. The chicken nuggets have been so good. It's literally one of those where he says, like, once you have an order, why would you change it? Yeah.
Gobsmacked.
Like,
I literally,
have
it
loved
still blows
their
my mind
chicken
every time I
nuggets
hear it.
As long as I can remember. Like,
And they're delicious chicken nuggets. I miss the old recipe. I wish they'd bring dark meat back.
but before I knew what tempura was,
right?
I was eating,
it's tempura.
Yeah, and like seriously, they are just. And there was a brief moment where I diverted when they had those McSalad shakers, because that chicken
the salad
Caesar,
in a cup?
the chicken Caesar McSalad shaker was just such a fun experience, and I love a Caesar salad.
But you got that regularly?
When it was available, although I would often get a 6-piece nugget on top of that, and then throw a few in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I still can't believe that you've never had a burger from McDonald's that you can remember.
Well, it's so funny because like I always got burgers at Carl's Jr. and Burger King. Although Burger King had those really like super peppery tenders at the time, which were also delicious, and Carl's Jr. has never had good chicken.
Yeah.
Like the stars did not fly. They've just never had good chicken.
Well, and also it's back to pickles and mustard because even if you special order, if something is born like on the menu with pickles and mustard, Rob really won't even special order it because there's a chance that like it'll still happen or like they'll do it and then take it off last minute. Like,
although I do get the burgers at Burger King, which are ketchup, mustard, pickle. And I just get them ketchup only.
But you get ketchup only, so just meat and ketchup, and that's pretty easy to special order.
Like McDonald's chicken is just so good. Like there's no reason to go elsewhere. Yeah. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's just been a no-brainer for me.
Well, and I mean, I've always loved a McChicken, but it's mainly because of the mayonnaise and lettuce. Like I just love a good iceberg lettuce and mayonnaise combination. Well, that should be a dip.
I welcome any opportunity for a spicy breaded chicken situation. Oh yeah, and recently I am a buffalo sauce man for my nuggets. I used to be a sauce-free nugget man.
Yeah, which you still do. I would say the majority of time you just eat a dry nugget, just raw dog in it.
But sometimes I'll also dip them in Caesar dressing or in sriracha.
You're such a funny little man. You do. Yeah, he would just dip nuggets directly in sriracha. Like that was his dipping sauce.
Oh, sriracha's the best.
It is delicious, but it's added to things, not just like dunking it in the sauce.
I used to put sriracha on Taco Bell for a phase there. That was a weird flavor combo, but delicious.
Well, Taco Bell did too. They had sriracha on their menu.
Did they?
During the height, like the boom of sriracha, they did like sriracha nacho fries or something.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's also when they like were experimenting with the truff hot sauce and the yellowbird hot sauce and stuff.
They love a partnership.
Yeah, that will sell out and then you might get one time. Like I think we got all of those one time and then they were like, oh, we never had them again.
That did start your truff journey.
It did. And my hot sauce journey.
So that's effective co-marketing.
Yep, it worked. Taco Bell brought hot sauce into my life. Well, that was a fun episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for chatting about Japan.
Yeah.
It's funny in my notes, like I wanted to talk more about traveling and stuff.
Sorry.
But no. But we only covered Japan. But we'll talk about other countries in the next episode because you'll be back.
Well,
I have no one else to be here.
And I've never been to Europe, and like that's the big travel thing I want to do.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I've only left the country twice: Costa Rica and Japan. I've never been to either of our neighbors.
Same. Never been to Canada, and we live 2 hours from the Canadian border now. We could literally drive there right now.
Well, my family used to have like a condo. 40 minutes from the southern border. Like, yeah. We've been so close to our neighbors for so long.
You've never been to Mexico?
I have never been to Mexico. My grandmother's literally from there, and never been.
That's hilarious. Well, tune in next time, and we'll talk about that. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you had a fun, enjoyable time listening to this episode of Gay Fat Friend and
Hopefully
Friends.
the audio is better.
Yeah, hopefully we fixed the audio. Like I said in housekeeping, I think we got it now. It looks right. Everything is highlighted and selected and running properly. So
my fingers are crossed. Yeah, it's like I know this is an audio and visual medium, so I will announce that my fingers are crossed.
But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.